Is Arlecchino free-to-play friendly? That's the question on most travelers' mind. That's the question that most travelers have when a new character is set to release. In today's video, I will do my best to answer the question of whether or not Arlecchino is free-to-play friendly. In today's video, I will go over her best weapons, I'll go over her ideal supports, as well as briefly touch upon her constellations. So let's get into it. So let's first start off with her weapons. Now, as is the case with every other banner character, their best in slot is their signature weapon. Now, unfortunately for Arlecchino, her weapon is very, very niche and tailor-made for her. There's really no other character that can utilize this properly because there's no other character that has a Bond of Life mechanic, and there might never be. So if you're free to play and you saved a bunch of wishes and you get this weapon, but you don't get Arlecchino, ouch. Ouch town, population U. It's very similar to Cloud Retainer's weapon. I would say Cloud Retainer's weapon is also very niche, so just be careful, gamers. But as this weapon reads, it grants a bond of life equal to 25% of max HP when a charge attack hits an opponent. This effect can be triggered every 14 seconds. In addition, when the equipping character has a bond of life, they gain 12% damage bonus. And if that bond of life is greater than or equal to 30% of max HP, you get an additional 24% damage increase. So coupled with the fact that you have, 22% crit rate and a relatively high base attack of 674 and the ability to get, 36% additional damage, very, very solid weapon. I think I've seen some numbers thrown out there that, this is about a 15 to 20% damage increase over her other options. So very, very solid weapon. Obviously, the weapon banner is pretty much a scam, so be careful. But if we're using this as her damage ceiling, very, very, very solid weapon. Now, the unfortunate thing is her other top tier weapons are also kind of quote unquote expensive, or I would say not easily obtainable. One of her better weapons is actually Staff of Scarlet Sands. Now, it is kind of niche in that you'd have to switch her sands to elemental mastery sands, and you might have to run Gilded Dreams just depending on what other characters you're bringing with her. But all in all, a very good weapon. You could do some pretty good sizable nuke vapes. Obviously, Jadewing Spear, pretty decent weapon for her. Also has a crit rate substat, and the passive is passable for her. Staff of Homa, everybody's favorite staff, especially Tectones. Not the best passive for her personally. She is an attack scaling character as opposed to HP, but you get a tremendous amount of crit damage from that weapon, which is obviously nothing to scoff at. Deathmatch, also a very, very good weapon, especially if you have refinements for it. It has about 36% crit rate and then a low base attack, but the fact that you're getting a pretty sizable attack increase from the passive is definitely a nice boon. And then if we're really desperate, I would say White Tassel can be utilized as well because it gives some crit value. And then, Black Cliff Polearm is fine. Again, kind of more of just a stat stick to make sure you're getting some extra crit damage. But all in all, I would say her weapons are relatively expensive. If we're looking at other characters like Neuvillette, who's arguably one of his best in slots, is a craftable weapon in the prototype Amber, I would say Arlecchino's weapons are definitely more of a barrier to entry. So from a free-to-play perspective, not very friendly on the weapon front. Now let's talk about her supports. Now Arlecchino, as is the case with a lot of other DPSs, definitely has to have some high-level supports to optimize and have her reach her damage potential. Now, one of her best supports is going to be Yelan. Now, Yelan obviously synergizes very well with normal attacking characters, which Arlecchino is. You're going to be able to generate some, residual energy for Arlecchino if you're using, Favonius Warbow. Arlecchino does want energy because her burst is how she heals. If you don't have Yelan, obviously Xingqiu is a very good alternative. Xingqiu will also be able to give a pretty good damage increase with the vapes and his ability to synergize with normal attacks. And, his ranged swords can give some good damage mitigation, which is always a big boon. She also does really like to have shielders like Zhongli. There's not really any other good shielders that pair well with her. I mean, like if you had a cracked out tank Fae, I would say okay. You know, Diona and Layla are fine. Diona, I mean, if you're going the EM route with maybe Staff of Scarlet Sands, you know, Diona's burst at C6 does give additional elemental mastery. So it's an option, but ideally it's Zhongli if you're going with a shielder. The problem is with Zhongli is that, you know, you kind of miss out on some overall damage because Arlecchino is kind of a high risk, high reward character. You pair her with like Yelan and Kazuha and Bennett, and you really just try and, you know, barrel stuff enemies as much as possible. Now, I just mentioned him, but Kazuha is also a phenomenal support for Arlecchino. Kazuha is pretty much every elemental DPS's best friend because he's going to allow you to increase your elemental damage, resistance shred enemies, and he's just absolutely insane. And then Bennett, although Arlecchino can't have external healing, because she is an attack scaling character, Bennett gives a substantial attack boost. He is a significantly good character for her. So again, her supports, I would say, are kind of on the more exclusive side. Obviously, there's niche options you can use. You know, we have Chevreuse. I always butcher that name. She can be used in an overload team with, you know, like Fischl, you know, Bennett as well, you know, Yaimiko. But, you know, I would say her free-to-play options aren't the best. But I think, you know, a lot of gamers have been playing the game long enough. You know, we just had Kazuha on a banner. I think a lot of people probably have Kazuha. I think most people have Xingqiu, if not Xingqiu and Yelan. And then ideally, and most likely, a lot of gamers have Bennett. So, you know, yes, she definitely has kind of a high tier level of supports, but I think most of the supports that she requires, a lot of gamers already have because they are kind of high end caliber characters and supports. Now, if we talk about her constellations, I'm not going to really go into the details of them because I don't even know if they've been officially released, but I will say at C1, she gets a very, very noticeable, you know, quality of life and also damage increase. Think of, you know, C1 Hu Tao or C1 Neuvillette. It really just opens up a lot of different doors for her and also increases her damage. So I think C1, if you're really trying to have Arlecchino be maybe your main DPS, I think it's not necessary. Of course, you know, the Spiral Abyss is not that difficult, although there's rumors that might be down the road. But I think C1 is a very good stopping point. C2 also very strong, but you know, I would say at C0, I do see Arlecchino kind of being very similar to Hu Tao. Personally, for me, I prefer Arlecchino's playstyle. Obviously, this is just personal. I don't like the charge mechanic. Obviously, the drawback of that is normal attacks have a little bit more restrictive ICDs as opposed to, you know, charge attacks. You know, Hu Tao can pretty much vape with every charge attack that she has. That's not the case with Arlecchino. If it was, she'd be absolutely broken. So, you know, maybe she doesn't vape as much, but I feel like she's going to, you know, flow better, going to play better. You know, I kind of compare her to a melee Yoimiya. Personally, I think those two are kind of on the same level as far as, you know, gameplay and fluidity. So I do think she's going to be very strong at C0. Do I think she's going to be the best DPS? No. I think at C0, Neuvillette's still far and away the best character. And, you know, the fact that he has a craftable weapon as his, you know, second best or third best weapon is pretty insane. So all in all, I would say if we're giving Arlecchino a free-to-play grade on a scale of 1 to 10, it's like a 7, 7.5. Is it the worst? No. Is it the best? Definitely not. But I think if you want the character, she's obviously going to be strong enough to dish out more than enough damage to clear 95, if not 99% of the content in the game. So don't be scared away by her multipliers or anything like that. If you want the character, go for her. But for me personally, I don't have a pyro DPS, so I'm kind of going not all in, but I'm definitely throwing a few primos her direction. But that's pretty much it. I just wanted to give my 2 cents on Arlecchino being free to play friendly or not. I hope this video helped. Comment down below if you're going for her. Comment down below if you think she's free to play friendly or if you're kind of worried that she's not. But as always, I appreciate you all so much, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.